breaking through security moved with relentless speed, no hesitation, no warning. Within seconds, the most powerful man in Britain was surrounded. Cameras honed in, MPs gasped, and the speaker's words echoed across the chamber like a verdict. This was no protest outside Parliament. This was no social media rumor. This unfolded live, before the nation, igniting a political shockwave Britain has never experienced. One moment altered everything, one confrontation pushed the system to its limit. Outside Westminster, crowds chanted for resignation, and a single terrifying question now looms: has Starmer already lost control? Wednesday afternoon, Prime Minister's questions, the most watched, most perilous 30 minutes in British politics. The green benches are packed, tension thick enough to cut, cameras fixed on the front bench. What should have been routine, sharp exchanges, rehearsed attacks, predictable defenses, feels charged, electric, different. MPs whisper, journalists lean forward, the nation holds its breath, and weeks of mounting pressure on Starmer are palpable, sliding polls, fracturing party unity, rising public anger. Inside the chamber, the fuse is already lit. Nigel Farage rises with deliberate calm, no shouting, no theatrics, just a measured voice slicing through the silence. He doesn't mock. He doesn't joke. He lays out the facts, numbers, border crossings, hotel costs, cancelled deportations. And then he delivers the line that changes everything: leaked documents revealing secret talks with Brussels over EU-linked migration frameworks rippled through the chamber. Labour MPs shifted uneasily in their seats as every word hit like an indictment, precise, deliberate, leaving no corner to hide. Starmer faced public humiliation, his leadership under fire, Rachel Reeves branded a disaster, and the party exposed as disorganized. Weeks earlier, at Prime Minister's questions, it had been all routine, questions asked but no answers given. Now, Farage's line of attack was relentless, referencing protests by 10,000 farmers in Whitehall over a controversial inheritance tax, highlighting EU dominance, and challenging the Prime Minister for surrendering Britain's democratic mandate to leave the EU. Promises of no tax hikes were shredded as a £22 billion shortfall swelled to £50 billion, exposing broken assurances. Then Farage delivered the question that detonated the room, not a rant, not a slogan, but a direct strike at Starmer's authority and honesty. For a moment, silence reigned. Starmer said nothing, his jaw tightened, hands clenched, the calculation of survival visibly unraveling in real time. Then suddenly he rises. What follows is not controlled debate or measured argument, it is raw, unrestrained fury. Starmer points across the chamber, voice rising, words tumbling faster than he can contain them. Accusations fly, tempers flare, and the speaker calls repeatedly for order, each warning ignored. The chamber freezes, MPs sense something has gone catastrophically wrong. This is no longer politics, it is a public loss of control. Broadcast live, the speaker invokes a rarely used but absolute authority: the Prime Minister must leave the chamber immediately. Silence falls. Starmer scans for support, finds none, not from his colleagues, not from anyone. Security moves in. Cameras zoom in. Protests are weak, futile. Step by step he is escorted out, his power visibly draining with every movement. MPs watch in stunned disbelief as the sitting Prime Minister is removed from Parliament. Within minutes, crowds assemble outside, phones light up, social media erupts with one message spreading like wildfire: resign. This is no longer a mere bad day for the government, it is the ignition of something far greater. The shock inside Westminster spills instantly onto the streets. Staff rush through corridors glued to screens, journalists sprint to live positions, sirens hum as barriers are reinforced. By the time Starmer reaches his office, uncut footage has gone viral, millions witnessing in real time the collapse of Britain's leader. The reaction is immediate, merciless, and unforgettable. Outside Downing Street, the crowd swells by the minute. What began as a handful of angry passers-by, activists, and curious onlookers quickly transforms into a loud, organized force, a threat to a government already teetering on the edge. Chants of "resign" echo repeatedly, phones held aloft streaming the scene live to the world. This is no longer just a Westminster scandal, it is a national rupture. Inside government offices, panic replaces strategy. Advisors scramble to shape a narrative, but there is nothing left to spin. The images speak for themselves: a prime minister unable to follow the speaker, a leader unraveling under pressure, a government laid bare as fragile. Attempts to recast the episode as passion or firmness collapse as replay after replay confirms one reality: loss of control. The public is not debating, they are judging. Political repercussions hit like a tidal wave. Opposition benches smell blood. Reform UK seizes the footage, portraying it as proof the system is broken and the leadership unfit. Conservatives strike hard, calling it a constitutional embarrassment, while senior figures mutter words rarely spoken aloud: instability, ungovernable failure. Inside Labour, the atmosphere shifts from criticism to consequence, toxicity spreading. Phones buzz incessantly with messages from furious constituents, longtime supporters in disbelief, swing voters enraged, and northern seats once considered secure now feeling perilously exposed. Backbenchers begin to ask what they have long avoided: how much damage can one leader inflict before the party collapses with him? The media machine goes into overdrive. News channels replay Starmer being escorted out, frame by frame, angle by angle. Headlines intensify hourly: unprecedented humiliation, historic collapse. International outlets treat it not as British drama, but as a sign of global instability. Allies quietly question Britain's leadership. Markets falter as confidence erodes. What should have been a routine parliamentary session is now seen as a turning point in modern British politics. Overnight polling delivers a brutal verdict: approval ratings plummet at a speed normally reserved for electoral catastrophes. Focus groups describe Starmer with words that cut: rattled, weak, unfit. Trust, once shattered, does not erode gradually, it crashes. Reform UK surges as voters seek alternatives, the political centre fracturing, and what seemed impossible weeks ago now feels inevitable. As night falls over London, Downing Street glows but remains silent: no statement, no apology, no reassurance. That silence speaks volumes, letting critics define the moment entirely on their terms. Outside, crowds do not disperse. Inside, the damage deepens. Britain is not just watching a prime minister falter, it is witnessing the authority of the office itself crack, with consequences only beginning to unfold. By morning, the political aftershocks are uncontainable. The events in Parliament are no longer seen as a single lapse, they are a defining moment, exposing fractures deep within the government and the system that sustains it. Every interview, headline, and analysis returns to the same image: a prime minister unable to command the chamber is removed under the speaker's authority, the nation watching in stunned silence. Labour's attempts at damage control collapse almost immediately. Senior figures are sent to TV studios with prepared lines, but the words ring hollow. Claiming passion or standing up to extremism only fans public anger. Voters don't see conviction, they see instability. The more the party tries to explain it, the more disconnected it appears from the public mood. Confidence in leadership is no longer a question, it is openly doubted. Behind closed doors, Labour HQ turns poisonous. Emergency meetings stretch late into the night. Polling data flashes on screens like an unwelcome diagnosis: marginal seats blinking red, former strongholds suddenly vulnerable. Fear is no longer hypothetical. MPs start calculating survival. Quiet talks about leadership change grow louder, faster, and less discreet. Starmer's name is no longer spoken with authority, it is spoken with concern. Meanwhile, Reform UK acts with ruthless precision. Clips of the meltdown are edited to brutal effect: calm versus chaos, control versus collapse. The message is simple, devastating, and viral. If a leader cannot control himself in Parliament, how can he control a nation? The framing spreads like wildfire, rallies swell, and membership numbers spike. Donations surge as what began as a protest now takes shape as a rapidly growing political force. Constitutional experts weigh in, asking questions that cut far beyond party lines. What does it mean for a prime minister to be removed by the speaker? Has a boundary been crossed that cannot be reversed? Can authority ever be fully restored once publicly stripped away? These debates strike at the very core of Britain's governance, and the public listens intently, sensing a fundamental shift. Pressure mounts as calls for accountability multiply, opposition parties demand investigations, ethics committees are invoked, and the ministerial code is dragged into the discussion. Each new challenge piles onto a government already under strain. Starmer remains mostly silent, and in modern politics, absence signals weakness, inviting attack. Outside Westminster, protests have become a daily reality, not chaotic riots, but sustained, determined crowds that refuse to disperse. Banners calling for resignation dominate streets, chants echo from morning to night, and the mood has hardened from anger to resolve. This is no fleeting outrage, it is a movement seizing its moment. Media coverage is relentless, unforgiving, and pervasive. Editorials question judgment, temperament, and fitness to lead, while satirical programs mercilessly embed the episode into popular culture. The phrase "forced out" becomes shorthand for political failure, a symbol of authority undone. For many, this is no longer just about Starmer, it has become a symbol of everything broken in politics, leaders who promise control yet crumble under pressure. By week's end, the reality is undeniable. The Prime Minister's authority has been severely damaged, perhaps permanently. Trust has drained away, replaced by doubt, suspicion, and anger. Allies hesitate, rivals circle, and the system itself feels unsteady. Britain is no longer watching passively, it is bracing, because the question has shifted from if change will come to how soon. 3 weeks after the eruption in Parliament, the political landscape is unrecognizable. What once seemed a momentary crisis has hardened into a full-scale leadership emergency. Polls reflect what the streets, media, and corridors of Westminster already know: the damage is deep, and it is not healing. Labour's support has sunk to levels unseen in years, while Reform UK continues its surge, feeding on public outrage and the growing sense that the old political order is failing before everyone's eyes. Inside Labour, patience snaps. No confidence letters circulate, first quietly, then openly. Senior MPs stop denying the reality. The language shifts from loyalty to survival. Constituency offices report unprecedented hostility. Volunteers walk away. Donors hesitate. For many, the concern is no longer just about the next election, it is about the party's relevance. Private discussions center on a brutal, unavoidable question: can the party survive with Starmer still at the helm? Meanwhile, Starmer becomes an increasingly isolated figure, watching as authority, support, and control slip further from his grasp. Public appearances become rare, and when Starmer does speak, his words land flat, stripped of authority by that single moment in Parliament that refuses to fade. Every speech, every gesture is now measured against the day he lost control. Leadership is as much perception as power, and perception has turned decisively against him. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage's profile soars with astonishing speed. Once dismissed by the establishment, he now dominates the national conversation. Polls place him near the top of preferred prime minister rankings, a result unimaginable weeks ago. In former Labour heartlands, his message hits home with voters who feel ignored, dismissed, and betrayed. The political map redraws itself in real time, seat by seat, region by region. Wider consequences ripple outward, public trust in politics drops to record lows, faith in institutions erodes, and voters increasingly feel the system no longer works for them. Analysts warn Britain is entering a volatile era, where traditional loyalties matter less and sudden shifts matter everything. As Parliament debates, protests continue, and party leaders maneuver, one truth becomes unavoidable: this was never just about a single outburst. It was a pressure system finally bursting, a leadership tested and found wanting, and a public no longer willing to look away. The eruption inside Parliament exposed not just the Prime Minister, it exposed a country at a crossroads. Now Britain waits. Will Starmer step aside or be forced out by his own party? Will Reform UK's surge reshape the political future? Is this the dawn of a new era or the collapse of the old one? The answers may arrive faster than anyone expects, because if this crisis proves anything, it is that in modern politics, everything can change in minutes.